Laughter echoed through the room the moment Natalie Brooks stepped into the banquet hall. It was not the kind of laughter that welcomed someone back. It was the laughter of people who had just seen an old memory they had always believed would remain beneath them. Natalie paused for a few seconds at the entrance of the hotel. Crystal chandeliers cast their glow across the polished marble floor. Expensive suits and elegant dresses filled the room. 12 years after graduation, the former students of Lincoln High School had gathered together once again, and almost all of them believed they knew exactly who Natalie was. The poorest girl in the class, the girl who always wore the same old clothes, the girl who never joined a single school trip because she could not afford it. Natalie walked slowly through the crowd in a simple dark blue dress. Curious eyes immediately followed her. Across the room, Vanessa Miller took a sip of her drink and smiled at the friends standing beside her. I honestly thought she would be too embarrassed to show up. A few people laughed. Natalie heard every word. But her expression never changed. Years ago, comments like that could have kept her awake for weeks. Now they felt no heavier than a passing breeze. As she searched for a quiet place to sit, a voice suddenly called out behind her. Natalie. She turned around. It was Ethan Parker. The only person who had ever shared his notes with her during the years she spent working late after school. Ethan shook her hand with a sincere smile. He asked about her life. Natalie thought for a moment before giving a simple answer. I run a community center. Ethan nodded. But on the other side of the room, Vanessa had overheard the conversation. The smile on her face grew even wider. To many people attending the reunion that night, running a community center was hardly something worth bragging about. What none of them knew was that behind Natalie's modest appearance was an entirely different story. A story that, within just a few hours, would make everyone in that room see her in a completely different light. The evening continued beneath the soft music and conversations filled with numbers. One person bragged about a newly purchased house. Another talked about a luxurious vacation across Europe. Almost every story seemed to revolve around money, titles, and social status. Natalie sat quietly beside Ethan. She listened far more than she spoke. That only made Vanessa more convinced that she had been right all along. Eventually, she rose to her feet and lifted her glass. Her eyes locked directly on Natalie. Still doing charity work? What a shame. With the grades you used to have, I always thought you would become something much bigger. A few people laughed. The atmosphere in the room instantly grew tense. Ethan frowned slightly, but Natalie remained calm. She gently placed her glass of water on the table. I think helping people get back on their feet is something pretty significant. Vanessa laughed. Maybe. But that does not exactly pay the bills. At that exact moment, the banquet hall doors suddenly opened. A woman stepped inside. She looked around the room for a few seconds before immediately recognizing Natalie. Her eyes filled with tears. Natalie? The woman hurried forward and wrapped her arms around her. The entire room was stunned. Even Natalie looked surprised. Rachel. She softly spoke the woman's name. Years earlier, Rachel had been a single mother who had lost her job. She and her young son had almost nowhere left to go. It was Natalie's community center that had provided them with temporary housing, job training, and a path toward employment. Rachel turned to face the crowd. Her voice trembled. If it had not been for Natalie, my son and I probably would not have survived that chapter of our lives. Today, I own my own business. My son is about to start college. Everything began because of this woman. The room fell silent. The mocking smiles disappeared. For the first time that night, every person in the room looked at Natalie differently. And Vanessa began to realize that the story she had believed for so many years might never have been the truth at all. No one spoke for several seconds after Rachel finished sharing her story. That silence carried more weight than any criticism that had been spoken earlier that evening. Vanessa tried to keep a smile on her face. But even she no longer knew what to say. The people who had mocked Natalie began exchanging awkward glances. In their eyes, the simple woman standing in the middle of the room suddenly seemed completely different. Not because she was wealthy, but because of what she had done. Ethan was the first to break the silence. He looked at Natalie and slowly shook his head. I think I have misunderstood the meaning of success for many years. Natalie smiled. A calm smile. Not a triumphant one. Not a satisfied one. Simply the quiet peace of someone who had stopped seeking approval from others. She looked around the room, at the faces that had once made her feel small when she was younger. the people she had once wanted so badly to prove herself to. Now that feeling was gone. I do not own a mansion or a luxury car, Natalie said softly. But every morning when I wake up, I know that my work has given someone another chance to start over. That is what makes me feel rich. No one argued, because everyone knew she was telling the truth. A few minutes later, Natalie quietly left the reunion. Outside, the cool night air greeted her. She walked toward her old pickup truck. Just then, her phone vibrated. A new message appeared on the screen. It was from a young woman who had recently completed the training program at Natalie's community center. Thank you, Natalie. Today was my first day at my new job. I will never forget everything you have done for me. Natalie read the message more than once. Then she smiled. Some people spend their entire lives chasing things that earn admiration from others. Natalie had spent hers creating changes that others could genuinely feel. And in that moment, she understood something with absolute clarity. A person's true value is not measured by what they own. It is measured by the lives that become better because they were there. If you were Natalie, would you choose material wealth or a life filled with meaning? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy inspiring stories like this one, do not forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more unforgettable stories in the future.